Super Saturday continues then at a lovely sunny Spa. Luke Browning has been completely dominant so far. All the drivers are trying to stop him. Who is it going to be? We just don't know. We did race one a little bit earlier on today. Luke Browning took the top step. Let's catch up with some of our podium sitters.
Luke, congratulations. What a victory there, and you had to fight back for it as well.
Yeah, static. That was amazing. Turn one was as crazy as I thought it would be, and yeah, I think it's whoever went into Eau Rouge first was going to come out last, so yeah, it was quite exciting, but yeah, what a race. It was good. Clearly the car's been absolutely amazing, and that's what allowed me to get the gap. So yeah, just big credit to High Tech GP for all the hard work. Their car's been absolutely phenomenal this weekend, and yeah, I'm glad I could do it justice. Yeah,
you learned a lesson on the first lap, didn't you, by Grand Tours past you, but you came straight back when the first opportunity presented itself and ran away with it.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was. That's what we wanted. You know, I think the pace in the cars do that, and yeah, I'm glad I couldn't unlock it.
More of the same in race two, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe a little bit smarter on lap one next time. I thought I'll just go in flat out and then see how big the toe is, but yeah, it was as big as we expected. So I learned from that in the previous laps and in the then coming laps. So yeah, glad to come away with a win. So yeah, happy.
Well done, Luke. We'll see you after race two.
Thank you.
Joel, congratulations, P2 there. You took the lead early on, but couldn't quite keep him away, could you?
No, I mean, we're on completely two different tyre strategies, especially in qualifying. They use two sets of tyres, while we used one, and now we use the same tyres in qualifying, so I kind of knew that it was going to be a hard shot to win this race, but I tried my best and got through to the lead on the first lap before the safety car came out, and then I tried to do the same thing in the restart, so I messed up the first corner, and he went past, and then apparently he saw that I lifted off because I was a bit too close, so I lifted off the throttle, but apparently he saw that, so he did it as well. But then I was just super close to be in front of him down to Les Combes, but not close enough. So.
Yeah, when you had the lead on the first lap, do you think you'd done enough there, or did the safety car sort of scupper that plan?
No, I mean, on the first lap, I think it was just going to be a matter of time before he attacked back, because you know there are much better tyres for this race. We saved our good tyres for the next one and the last race. So yeah, I think the next one is going to be much more tight. So.
Yeah, so you saved your new tyres for the second race, sorry. So as you say, potentially more confident for that one.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well done, Joel. We'll see you after that one, maybe.
See ya.
Brandon, congratulations, a podium at Spa-Francorchamps. That's capped off what's been a strong weekend for you so far.
Yeah, it's been very strong. I messed up a bit in quali, but fortunately it didn't really affect me too much, and I think I recovered from it now. But yeah, I've always wanted to be on the podium at Spa. I mean, what a place to be on the podium. So, I mean, we still got two more races, but I'm happy with this one.
Yeah, it was a very strong first lap. I think you gained a few spots there, and you know, a good way to start your weekend. And now starting P2 for the next race as well. So you must be pretty confident ahead of that one as well.
Yeah, I mean, I always get a few on the start, don't I? But yeah, it's P2 for the next race, so that's what I've got to focus on now. And I've got my game plan. I can't tell you though.
Well done, cracking race, and hopefully the same in race two.
Cheers.
Well, he might not be able to tell us the game plan, but Brandon Oxley has been absolutely superb this weekend so far, moving his way up onto the podium after a penalty for Cian Shields a little bit later on in the race. Of course, we do have a car missing on the grid, though. That is the one that is ahead of Javier Segura. It's Matthew Rees who is missing from the grid. Now, I can update you on something which happened in the previous race after the full wide bit of contact. It was Matthew Rees that was put blame for it and received a disqualification for his efforts, obviously making contact not only with his teammate James Headley, but also with Nico Christodoulou and Alex Connor. So obviously a bit of a penalty heading the way there, but you can see he is actually in position on grid, so we're just coming through a little bit late. They'll get ready to do their formation up because the 1 minute board is out in the air, and you can tell by the light the sun is setting. It is quite late at Spa, approaching 8 o'clock local time. And like we say, it's a fantastic time to go racing, at least when you're doing endurance racing. And an open wheeler is something a little bit different, and hey, maybe even a little bit special, which exactly is what Luke Browning has been putting on a show of, a very special show indeed so far this weekend. Completely dominant in that first race. He'll be starting from pole position and alongside Brandon Oxley. You've got to remember, though, he said there in that interview post-race with Randy that he was kind of saying that maybe he could have been a bit smarter on that first lap, and I wonder if he's going to be playing those kind of cards. The expectation is those drivers that are on that second row, which in this case is Joel Granfors and Max Esterson, could well be challenging for the lead up towards Les Combes on that very, very first lap, up towards that braking zone, especially if there is no safety car this time, which we're keeping our fingers crossed for. Beginning the formation lap then, as we get ready for round number 14 of this championship. The second race here at Spa before we go racing tomorrow morning. 2 races on Saturday, which is something which the drivers aren't really accustomed to in the GB3 Championship, as they'll roll their way through turn 1. Hopefully we won't see retirements from the likes of Headley and of Nico Christodoulou like we did in that previous race. They'll be looking for a decent result, that's for sure. There was Cian Shields rolling off a few positions further down than where he was running in the previous race. Here's your grid order then. Luke Browning starts from a second consecutive pole position, this time alongside Brandon Oxley, who's been absolutely phenomenal. Second in the championship, Joel Granfors will roll off a third alongside Max Esterson with a second consecutive second row start. Bryce Aaron, another great qualifying for the High-Tech Grand Prix team. He'll start from 5th alongside Mackenzie Cresswell, who had that damage with the front wing a little bit earlier on. Matthew Rees, disqualified from the previous race, will start this one from 7th alongside Tom Leben for Elite Motorsports. The final 2 cars inside the top 10 will be Javier Segura and John Bennett. Javier Segura being the highest place of a fairly struggling Carlin team. They'll be looking good tomorrow morning, but that's a focus for a different day. Today they need to march forward. Nico Christodoulou alongside Marcus Flack, who had a superb drive earlier on in the day up inside the top 10. Nick Gilks went +3 in the previous race. We're looking to do the same thing again to move himself inside the top 10. Alex Connor also will start alongside David Morales and Cian Shields. Shields starting a lot further down than he would have wanted, as he did in the previous race. James Headley again on debut for JHR Developments. He only did the first corner in the previous race. He'll start from 17th in the danger zone alongside Callum Voisin. Mikael Grundtvig, the reverse grid master, starts alongside Tommy Smith for Douglas Motorsports, and the final row of the grid will see Zach Taylor and Roberto Faria starting from 22nd and last. Of course, Roberto Faria, anyone who remembers what I said a bit earlier on in the day, that Roberto Faria was the one that caused a red flag in the qualifying session quite late on, wasn't able to really get any decent laps onto the board. Got one, which was okay, but obviously in a qualifying session here in GB3 you need to get 2 decent lap times. A bit of a lock up there from John Bennett as Javier Segura was going a little bit patiently down towards campus up towards Stavolo, and so I had to get on the brakes a little bit harder than maybe he would have wanted, all struggling to get heat into the tyres. They do take a couple of laps to get inside the window, but then they tend to, after speaking to a couple of drivers, come out of it after 3 or 4. So you've only got that fine margin. That's why qualifying is so intensely difficult in a championship like this. To update you on the tyres, speaking of which, they get 8 tyres over the weekend, and obviously you've got to have 4 in the car at any time, which means that we sometimes see full new sets being used in the race. Marcus Flack has brought a full new set to this race, and so he'll be starting from just outside the top 10 with a full new set. Mikael Grundtvig and Max Esterson bring half a set to this race. Now, Max Esterson did use half a set in the previous race, half a set being obviously 2 tyres, and he is using another one of those, so he's using all 8 of his allocated tyres across the running of this race, or this day anyway. Luke Browning there lines up onto pole position, a position which he is very, very familiar with after taking 4 victories this season, all 4 of which have come from pole position. Can he make it 5 from 5? That's the really interesting thing, at least for him. There is the latest of the JHR development cars, being the number 67 of James Headley, lining up a few positions down the order, especially a few positions that he would have wanted. As the final row comes round the corner and we get ready to go racing for another 9 laps here in round number 14 of the 2022 GB3 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. Our second race of the weekend here at Spa. Obviously, as the evening's rolling on, things have cooled down, but the wind has picked up just a little bit. We'll get ready to go racing down towards La Source once again, as we are underway here at Spa again. A big start from Brandon Oxley. Oh my goodness, where did that come from? Across, straight into the race lead for the Chris Dittman racing car. Luke Browning drops back into second position. Joel Granfors right over the rear end as they all head side by side through La Source and down the hill. No contact this time by, as we will have a bit of 2 and 3 wide, racing our way down towards Eau Rouge and Radion. It might have been tactical from Luke Browning, because now he's picking up the slipstream of the Chris Dittman racing car, as we've got 2 elites going side by side. It's John Bennett and Tom Levin Leben side by side up and over Radion. Leben holding the advantage in that little battle as one of the Arden cars is also on the attack. Look at this though, Luke Browning's retaken the race lead, but he's under pressure. He's being squeezed off onto the grass by Joel Granfors in that Fortec machine, the number 50 through the middle of shot. And of course, Brandon Oxley's fighting his way straight back through, 2 and 3 wide, all over the place. Oh, and there's contact, and that's Brandon Oxley who's just come straight back onto the road. Mackenzie Cresswell having issues, John Bennett having issues. There's a car into the barrier as well. This will definitely be a safety car. There's a broken front suspension for Brandon Oxley, who's just coming to a slow stop on the run down towards Rivage. It'll be the race lead handing its way back over though to Luke Brown, as there's a couple of cars ailing their way through the middle of the pack. That's Tom Leben, who's got also broken front left suspension as they're dropping their way back down the order. My goodness, what a calamitous first lap here at Spa once again. It's actually a front wing rather, not a suspension failure, as Nick Jilks is going around the outside of Callum Voisin. But yeah, Tom Leben with a broken front wing, getting passed by Callum Voisin, by his teammate of John Bennett, by Nick Jilks as well, coming up towards Fania, and Mikael Grundtvig also coming through. There's the JHR development cars of James Headley making his way through the silver with the green highlights on. But wow, what a dramatic opening lap here for the second consecutive race at Spa. No safety car has been called. I think they're all right. I think my eyes might have deceived me as to where some of the gravel was going. I thought a car might have been into the barrier at Malmedy. There is the retirement. Such a shame for Brandon Oxley. Got to say, might have bitten off a little more than he could chew going into Les Combes. There though is your race leader. It's Joel Granfors, then Luke Browning, and then the attack going around the outside. It's Matthew Rees who's got up himself up into 4th in that silver and orange JHR developments car, just behind the number 42 of Max Esterson, who will be the final car on the podium as things stand. On that run towards the source, it's a defensive line from the American, just trying to hold back the Welshman who's trying to get to the outside coming into the first corner at La Source. He'll hook himself back on the inside. He'll wait for the slipstream. Bryce Aaron also making a lot of progress up in a 5th position. Javier Segura directly behind, eyeing on that. You've got Kean Shields, John Bennett all going a bit side by side in that run down towards Eau Rouge once again. Whereabouts are they coming through shot? About the 12th, 13th position as they'll head their way up the enormous climb. Again, look at that, 4 cars all in shot. Battle for the race lead, battle for the top of the championship. Once again, Luke Browning picks the left-hand side of shot, right-hand side of the circuit as we head on that final parts of the 2-kilometre run up towards Les Combes. The race lead will return its way back to Luke Browning, and Joel Granfors will be clutching just to hang on to the rear end of that car. Look at that moment though in the background. Max Esterson under a lot of pressure from Matthew Rees as they run down towards Rivage. Joel Granfors instantly trying to attack his way back. Defensive line though picked by Luke Browning as he'll find that second apex running through Rivage down towards the corner with no name. As we look a bit further back, grass has been picked up. That's a bit of a wide moment there from Bryce Aaron, who's got to the inside of Javier Segura, and there's a spin there as well. That's Bryce Aaron sent around right in the middle of the pack. He's trying to get off the road. Oh my goodness, down into the corner with no name. Was just trying to get to the inside of the Carlin car. I don't know exactly what happened to Max Esterson in all of that. I think dropped back a couple of, or rather actually held on. He was a little bit further ahead of it as he runs through in 3rd. Then there was Matthew Rees, and then, by the way, super drive from Marcus Flack once again from outside of the top 10. He's inside it now. Look at this from Callum Voisin though, straight around the outside of the number 6. That one being Kean Shields, who's also done his fair share of progress, but Callum Voisin, who's on a bit of a rescue attempt after a poor qualifying from the Carlin team in the qualifying session here. He struggled a little bit in that, didn't have a great grid position for the first race, didn't have a great grid position for this one either. Doesn't seem to matter because he's marching his way up the order to get himself towards the top 10. I think he's just outside of it at the moment with about 13th position on the road. We've got side by side here as Nick Jilks is trying to get to the outside of Nico Christodoulou. Canadian on Canadian action, and that's Nick Jilks up yet another spot as he's worked his way up. Christodoulou's having a bit of a mare this lap. He's dropped back to around about 13th or 14th position, and now he's under pressure from James Headley. Your race leader though, Luke Browning in that silver car, the high-tech machine, then Joel Granfors, then Max Esterson, of course Matthew Rees behind, Marcus Flack with that super drive, Mackenzie Cresswell, then Javier Segura, Alex Connor inside the top 10 with John Bennett and Callum Voisin rounding out that top 10. That move from Nick Jilks got out into 12th position, as we'll see again a bit of a replay as to the start of the race. What a dramatic first lap we have had here at Spa as they'll all bottom their way out. You can see that high low, the massive compression. Yoel Granfors, he's on the defence, he's on the attack rather. He's trying to find that slipstream. He's trying to find his way past Luke Browning. Doesn't pick this as the opportunity. Mackenzie Cresswell, oh, super close with Marcus Flack, who's trying to get to the inside. This is for 5th position, and that position goes the way of Mackenzie Cresswell with a bit of a kick of oversteer as well between the two apexes at Les Combes. Picks up Malmedy and has made his way up the order, and so has James Headley. Bit of a moment there as well on the recovering Bryce Aaron, trying to get past David Morales. The two Americans battling their way over at what is now 16th position, all single file though, as they head down towards Rivage and towards the corner with No Name in the centre part of the lap. Let's take a look at the replay at the start of the race. It was a poor start from Luke Browning. Now, part of me, the cynical side, is almost like, is that intentional? We said that he needed to be a little bit smarter, and we know how strong the slipstream is. Here's the side-by-side there between Tom Leben and John Bennett. Leben on the left-hand side, closer to us. Super move, getting that one done by the time they'd gone through the top at Radion. There was the contact, so Brandon Oxley kind of comes straight over and into the side, and it is just chaos through the middle of the pack. Nico Christodoulou picking up a couple of spots. Tom Leben there getting his front wing damaged, but for me, Brandon Oxley kind of keeps his foot in and goes over the sausage curves. Obviously the front wheels are lifted off the road, so he has no steering. He's a bit of a passenger past that point and goes straight into the side. I'm amazed that Yoel Granfors didn't pick up more damage than he did, if he's picked up really any at all, because he's driving around fine at the moment. But yeah, just one of those moments, I guess, as we'll look back. John Bennett on the left-hand side battling with Alex Connor. Bennett up into 8th position in the black and yellow Elite Motorsports car. So he might have dropped a couple courtesy of that chaos and carnage, but he's picking them all back up again as he moves his way even further inside the top 10. Struggled in a couple of races recently with some bad luck, including towards the end of the previous race where a bit of 3 wide at the midpoint of the circuit, and he actually broke his front wing, had to return to pit lane on the final lap, or the penultimate lap rather, of the race, and I wasn't particularly pleased by it, but those are some of the things that happen in racing. Now well inside the top 10, so he'll be pretty pleased with that. Of course, said it before, time and time again, super impressed with some of the drivers on the grid, the likes of John Bennett, plenty of other ones where it's like their first season either in open wheelers or in what they call slicks and wings, so this style of racing rather than your old style Formula Ford. Super impressive what some of these drivers have been able to do, but John Bennett is having to defend a little bit now because Alex Connor's coming straight back at him in that Arden Motorsports car. The red and white, the number 32, isn't able to get through into Les Combes. It was held firm by John Bennett. It was getting a little bit of slipstream, but they do have to worry about the car directly behind, because it's, guess who? It's Callum Foysen. I am pretty sure that is the driver that has picked up the most positions over the 2 races so far this weekend, is Callum Foysen, because he is on a mission. It does help when you have some poor qualifying, but it's going to give him great confidence in the next race tomorrow morning, because obviously it's our reverse grid race, and if he's putting on a show like this, well, he'll be starting higher up the order, and if he can make overtakes like this, I'm pretty sure he'll be the favourite to win. Oh, a little bit of a wide moment there from Alex Connor. Let's take a look, though, at the defensive move from Luke Browning as Yoel Granfors was trying to find his way through, and then we'll see this move down into corner with no notice. There's a bit of a squeeze there, which was the major issue. I think it was Bryce Aaron just squeezing a little bit on Matthew Rees. Then down the inside of Javier Segura, who tried giving enough room, but I think Bryce Aaron might have been in a little bit too hot. Now, I'll give credit there. Bryce Aaron is trying to get off the road. He's moving over to the left to try and get away from the racing line so he can get back up to speed without being a danger. Just looked a little bit more dangerous from that camera angle. Can completely understand what he was doing. Let's see Luke Browning, though. He was faster than Yoel Granfors by 0.4 of a second on the previous lap. Now, Granfors in the previous race was a lot slower than Luke Browning, but he was under a lot of pressure in that previous race. See what he'll be doing now. Look at this, though. Alex Connor defending a little bit from Nick Gilks. This one for 11th position at the moment, because Cian Shields has already got his way through. Alex Connor struggling a little bit. These two, despite being in very similar liveries, one of them, the 32 is an Arden, the 64 is a Hill Speed. 2 different teams battling out here for 11th position. I did hear from Nick Gilks he was confident of a top 10 in the first or second race this week, and he's really confident in his speed this weekend, and he is proving why. Started this race from 13th, keeping up with that train, moving up 1 position, looking to move up a second. Eau Rouge and Radion ticked off for yet another lap as Luke Browning's pulled out a further couple of tenths from our race race leader, and watch out for the bird that's in the middle of the road that does, thankfully, jump its way out. Max Esserson in a very comfortable third position. Don't think we'll be talking about him too much more this afternoon if he keeps up his current rate, because he's pulling away from Matthew Rees behind, and Mackenzie Cresswell will look to see if there is going to be the move. Nick Gilks isn't close enough to make it stick on Alex Connor. We'll say Gilks has put on some fantastic moves so far this season, including a couple later. I think it was against Zach Taylor. Might have been David Morales in the Silverstone round. Some superb racing where we'll go racing next week, and I'll have to wait and see what he can do there. Focusing on the task at hand though, just 12th position, needs to move his way up a couple if he's going to get his target for the weekend, because he's right over the rear end of that Arden Motorsports number 32. Got to worry again though, James Headley behind in that JHR Developments car in 13th position, and Roberto Faria, who's worked his way up from 22nd and last on the grid, +8 at the moment in this race. Now, whilst there are no points given out for positions gained in this race, still every position gains an extra point anyway, just in the points structure itself. So Roberto Faria will be desperate to move his way up the order. The only retirement from the race, by the way, is Brandon Oxley. I think Tom Leben has come back out onto the track, but is down the order 3 laps down. There is the Alex Connor running wide at Puon, and that was Cian Shields working his way up. We kind of caught the back end of that move, just as a bit of a mistake from the Arden Motorsports driver. And so just losing that one position, you can kind of see he's lost a whole heap of time. So if Nick Gilks wants to get himself a top 10, he needs to get through pretty much now. It's now or never, but you've always got to take a bit of a risk, and an idea that maybe making a move down into the bus stop chicane is not really the wisest. Not because you'll be open to a move down into turn 1 at La Source, but because you've got, as I've said time and time again, that 2-kilometre run from La Source all the way to Les Combes, where they are absolutely pinned. And if you make a move down to the bus stop, well, you'll be a sitting duck by the time you get at the top of the hill. There's also a bit of side-by-side, or rather looking, from Bryce Aaron on the rear end of Nico Christodoulou in 15th position. This is back with 4th position. This is Matthew Rees holding on from Mackenzie Cresswell and keeping that position at the moment. John Bennett is right on the rear end of Javier Segura as well, so we might see a couple of changes of position this time by. There is Matthew Rees right in the foreground of shot, just coming through now, the 53. Then you've got the number 8 of Mackenzie Cresswell looking to the outside, heavy onto the brakes. He's going to send it around the outside into Les Combes. Super move from Mackenzie Cresswell, the lone Chris Dittman racing car left in this race. His teammate, he'll fly past right now, who's sat around this part of the circuit after that retirement. Mackenzie Cresswell up into 4th position. Got to worry though, because Marcus Flack, who is having just an outstanding weekend here at Spa, I had said he got that top 10 in the previous race. This is a driver who is down in 20th position in the championship, has just 1 top 10 to his name, or 2 top 10s rather, to his name prior to this weekend. Way further down the order than he would want to be, but he is, like I say, marching his way forward. At a top 10 earlier on the day, and now looking for not only another one, but he'd want a top 5 as well. And it is certainly on the cards if he keeps driving like this. Right over the rear end of Matthew Rees, who has a bit of kick of oversteer on the exit of Fania. And that bright blue, you cannot miss it. Douglas Motorsports car of Marcus Flack is sitting there waiting, obviously dragging along Javier Segura and John Bennett, who will pick up the pieces should anything go wrong. But John Bennett has to worry about Segura's teammate, because Callum Voisin is marching up to the rear end of him. Voisin a little bit faster over the last couple of laps, but I will say the top 2 are in a league of their own at the moment. They are the only 2 on the entire grid that are in 16s at the moment, both setting 16.3s over the previous couple of laps. There's John Bennett looking to the inside of Javier Segura, the big send down the inside. He's fully there. He's going to try and make it stick around the outside of the second part of the bus stop. Javier Segura is going to push him out wide, and that's John Bennett holding onto the position now. Race control, I'm sure we'll take a look at it. Tom Leben received a penalty in the previous race for skipping a corner and gaining a position, but I've got to say Javier Segura gave him absolutely no room, and so for me that's a perfectly fine move by John Bennett. He exceeded track limits, but he was pushed there. So, I mean, what else can you do? Either retire from the race or kind of keep your foot in, which, see, these are real racing drivers, and it is nice and flat out there. So, each to their own. John Bennett, focusing on it, is up into 7th position now behind Marcus Flack, a super drive at the moment from the Salisbury local. And now he's got to worry about doing the defensive move on the run up the hill, because Javier Segura will not be waiting around. The flying Spaniard right on the rear end of John Bennett, now looking to the outside as Marcus Flack's trying to get past Matthew Rees as those two nearly switch positions. positions. John Bennett does hang on into Lecom in that black and yellow Elite Motorsports car, so it's 2 Carlins directly behind him, and dragging up to the rear end is Kian Shields in that high-tech car, who again, we've said before, they've been looking super strong all weekend. Their pacer, I had a chat with a couple of drivers between the races, and they were saying, yes, High-Tech are pretty fast this weekend. It's not just Luke Browning. All 3 of them are going very, very strong in those silver machines. You can see behind as well that Nick Gilkes has got past Alex Connor, but is way too far off the rear end of this train. So unless something happens in the next couple of laps, I don't think he'll be trying to move himself inside the top 10, but he'll be pushing on as hard as he can. This is the third to last lap of the race. Got 2 more after this. Obviously just the 9 laps of running around here, and thankfully we haven't had the safety car interruption throughout the race, because for the most part in that mid-pack it's been absolutely thrilling stuff. At the top of the race though, it's been a little calmer. A further 3/10 pulled out over the previous lap. Luke Browning looking to sweep the Saturday races, and for High-Tech Grand Prix, like I said, every time he's had a pole position he has taken victory, and he's looking for another podium. These 2 though, I wonder if Yoel Granfors is coming out back at him a little bit there as well, by the way. These 2 have been on the podium together 7 times in GB3 this season. Absolutely incredible effort, as Matthew Rees is going to hang on for 5th place. Marcus Flack and John Bennett right behind. Matthew Rees, who was struggling for pace late on in the previous race, that is definitely a track limit excursion as he runs out a little bit wide through the final corner. It seems like he's struggling once again for that long run pace over the entire race distance, and Marcus Flack for Douglas Motorsports is looking to make it 2 Douglas Motorsports cars inside the top 5. His teammate Max Esterson is in 3rd position at the moment as they charge their way down the hill, and he might be able to make himself inside the top 5. He's all over the rear end at the moment, and he'll just be waiting for that opportunity. But if he lifts even slightly, if he hesitates even slightly, John Bennett is there, is waiting, is ready to make a move. Onto the Kemmel Straight once again, completely uphill and up a very steep hill indeed. We go 3 wide. On the left-hand side, it's Matthew Rees, then Marcus Flack, then John Bennett. Marcus Flack has made up the position in that number 11 car, and John Bennett also sweeps around the outside. So for Matthew Rees, it's double down at the moment. He's moved down from 5th position to 7th as Marcus Flack and John Bennett move their way through. Javier Segura eyeing up the mirrors, looking for a little bit of a lunge down towards Ravage on the penultimate lap of the race. Is not able to find his move just yet. He's got his teammate directly behind, maybe a little bit of safety, a little bit of security in the form of Callum Voisin, but these are all mercenaries. They are racing for themselves and not for the team in that sense, as much as Trevor Carlin wouldn't be too happy if they made contact again. I will remind, they have made contact before this season, as Javier Segura and Callum Voisin. In fact, even in the first race of the season, they won't be wanting to repeat that feat, but they'll both be wanting to get their way past Matthew Rees. They head through Fania once again. They head their way out onto the back stretch once again, looking for another opportunity. The top 2 of this train being Marcus Flack and John Bennett have pulled away from Matthew Rees quite comfortably through the mid part of that lap. Tells me that there might be a couple of tyre issues for the Welshman, and that means that he might be dropping back a couple more over the course of the race. We'll have to wait and see. This is Luke Browning though, final corner ticked off to start the final lap of this race. He is in a complete league of his own. Another 10th pulled out from Yoel Granfors on the previous lap of this race. And our championship leader pulled out an extra 6 points in the previous race, looks to pull out an extra 6 points in this race. He's presently leading by 17 points, and he is taking control of the GB3 Championship in 2022. Back to the train, though, for 5th position. Marcus Flack holding on from John Bennett, from Matthew Rees, from Javier Segura, then Callum Voisin. Nick Gilkes is closing into the rear end of Kian Shields at the back end of that train, and obviously the final position inside the top 10, but whether it'll be a little... too little, too late. That will have to be waiting to be seen, because as they race their way up towards Lecom once again, there aren't that many more opportunities for drivers to make moves. Kian Shields, though, is right on the rear end of Callum Voisin for the final position in this train, 9th and 10th at the moment. You can see how defensive Callum Voisin is in that number 35 Carlin with the orange highlights, and Kian Shields has already got his way through, absolutely made it. The straight line speed, again, when you're in the slipstream, he's picking up the slipstream of not 1, not 2, but 5 cars in that train, and boom, there is the move from Cian Shields to move up into 9th place. He didn't qualify particularly well for this one, but he is running well through the race, and that's the critical thing for these drivers that are all learning, that are all figuring things out. This could be a massive confidence booster, again, to start the second half of this season. Cian Shields well and truly comfortably inside the top 10. Marcus Flack still in that 5th position. John Bennett's not been able to make his way through. John Bennett, by the way, still looking for his first podium. He's one of their very few drivers on the grid that are yet to pick up a podium, but he has been very consistent over the season, just picking up top 10s left, right and centre, and the odd top 5 here and there as well. And like I say, the experience, well, a lot of these drivers don't really have that much experience, but they just learn as they go, and that's what we love seeing. Javier Segura on the rear end of Matthew Rees. Matthew Rees is going to be feeling this pressure. There is going to surely be a send coming down into the bus stop chicane as we are on the final lap, the final attempt, the final run through. Blanchimont completely pinned in these cars as you start rising your way back up the hill. It doesn't look like it's uphill, obviously, from these TV cameras, but I can confirm that it is. But Luke Browning comes out of the final corner, and it is the double dub. It's a Saturday sweep for Luke Browning as he crosses the line for High Tech Grand Prix to take yet another win over his championship rival in Joel Gramfors. Max Esterson picks up another podium in GB3 as well, but then the tight fight behind Mackenzie Cresswell will lead over 4th place. Marcus Flack, super effort, 5th place, ticked off just ahead of John Bennett, Matthew Rees, Javier Segura, Cian Shields and Callum Voisin. Nick Gilks just missing out on the top 10, but as they all come across the line for that final time, there's Nico Christodoulou. You can see Luke Browning coming down into the pit lane and will take to the top step for the 5th time this season. Absolutely incredible. What a super driver he is proving himself to be. Again, he made one appearance last year at his home circuit of Alton Park towards the end of the 2021 season. He won a race there. He started off the season at Alton Park by winning a couple of races, and he just continues the season by winning again. Only the 2nd time this season that the driver that's won the first race has gone on to win the 2nd. And Luke Browning was the previous driver to do that, of course. And I'm sure there'll be a shake of hands between himself and Joel Gramfors, but when we speak of this being a confidence sport of one good race can move into another, I mean, look at Callum Voisin, who's been in that boat where, over the last couple of rounds he's just found so much confidence, has moved himself forward. These are the kind of performances, these are the kind of races that break confidence of other drivers, and Joel Gramfors might well be fearing that. Let's take a look at the provisional race results. Luke Browning winning again, dominant again, less so than the previous race, only 1.5 seconds over Joel Gramfors. Max Esterson in 3rd position with Mackenzie Cresswell, Marcus Flack in 4th and 5th. Again, super performance from Marcus Flack. John Bennett, Matthew Rees, Javier Segura, Callum Voisin and Cian Shields rounding out the top 10 with Nick Gilks, Connor Headley, Bryce Aaron and Christodoulou just ahead of his teammate in Morales, and just over his teammate it was just half a second. Mikael Grundtvig, Taylor Smith and Farrier down the order as we'll take a look at highlights from the race. And what a race it was. Super scenes here for round number 14 of the GB3 Championship as they would race their way down towards turn 1. It was Brandon Oxley who would take over the race lead on the initial race start. A bit of side-by-side between John Bennett and Tom Leben racing their way over the top. Radion, Tom Leben holding the advantage, but it wouldn't last for long. This moment from Brandon Oxley right into the side of Joel Gramfors, the race leader. It would retire him from the race and cause carnage behind, including issues for the likes of Tom Leben, who would pick up damage on the front wing and would skate their way around the lap. Our race leaders, though, were going at it. Luke Browning just hanging on from Joel Gramfors after retaking the race lead. An issue for Bryce Aaron, though, as he would get into the side of Javier Segura and go for a bit of a spin into the corner with no name, right into the path of those down towards the back end of the top 10, nearly being collected by his teammate of Cian Shields. Bit of a moment from Alex Connor, who was struggling for grip as Cian Shields would work his way up yet another position into Fania, being chased down as well by Nick Gilks. Big move, though, from Mackenzie Cresswell to the outside of a struggling Matthew Rees. He'd get himself up into 4th position with a big kick of oversteer, and then Marcus Flack was the next one to try and find his way past, sat over the rear end of the Welshman. Big move from John Bennett down the inside of Javier Segura. He'd go a little bit wide, though, coming through the chicane to hold the position. I'm sure race control will take a look, but for me, that one is okay. Luke Browning, though, was the talk of the town. Dominant once again on another Spa evening. This time, though, ahead directly of Jarl Granfors, who was chasing him down. And that is the drivers that will take to the podium. Max Esterson on the right-hand side of shot. On the left, it is, of course, Jarl Granfors. And right in the middle, once again, we're getting used to seeing his face. That one being Luke Browning. Got to give a shout out though. I know I've done it a couple of times, but to Marcus Flack, who picks up his second top 5, but it's his first top 5 not from a reverse grid race, which is a stunning performance, and definitely looking for his best round of the season so far, with a 10th and a 5th. All of the trophies being handed out. And Luke Browning, I've said before about treasured memories of taking victories and stuff. He might start forgetting them soon. He's taken so many in the opening 14 races of this season. 1/3 of the races go his way, but he's got a bit of a challenge tomorrow with the reverse grid race, of course, where I'll be starting from the back. That one will be at 11:35 tomorrow morning, local time at Spa. For us here in the UK, that'll be 10:35. You can obviously catch all of that content here on MSV TV on YouTube, as well as following all forms of social media of the GB3 Championship, and going to gb-3.net to catch up on all of the latest news of the championship, of which there has been so many, and I would be surprised if we left this round without any more drama. I'm sure Race Control will take their looking into a few things. However, that is us done for the day. Join us again at 10:30 tomorrow morning. I've been Lewis McGlade, and I hope to see you then. Until then, though, a very warm goodbye.